All right, here we go. Today we are, we have the pleasure of sort of having this impromptu conversation with Jason Brubaker of filmmakerstuff.com. He's a filmmaker. We just discovered, we're gonna check and see if this is right or not, but we believe he might be involved with Distributor. I mean, he really knows,
Speaker,
he's a
author.
speaker. Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. He knows film distribution inside and out. It's a pleasure to have him join us.
Yes.
Jason, let's just start off. Can you give us a little bit on your background and sort of where your focus has been in the past year?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of the background, and then I'll talk about the past year. About 12 years ago, like a lot of us, and probably like you both, I started this filmmaking thing with the idea, no other vocation appealed to me more than going out and making movies and hopefully making some money and making my living making movies.
Yeah.
And that desire took me to New York City, where I worked with an independent film producer, and we made a few features. And what I quickly realized up there was, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, so what I quickly realized was making the movie is just part of the process, even though that's a thing you dream about, and most filmmakers do. When it comes to actually making your movie a success, you have to have some sort of distribution in place. And what happened for us is we had a great festival run, and then when it came time for distribution, we got a whole bunch of offers, but none of the offers were deals, because deals actually pay money. And our offers, although it would have been nice to be in the video stores, which, by the way, most of them aren't even in existence anymore, it would have been nicer to be able to pay the bills making movies. And that was so frustrating to me that it just created this thinking. I was like, if I could only overcome this distribution hurdle, then I could have a complete business. So fast forward to now, I moved out to California. I got together with a bunch of folks. We made our first feature, and I went through the whole rigmarole of trying to find distribution. It was the same thing. We had a lot of offers, no deals. But it was around 2006 when we were able to go to market. So we just thought, why don't we just, as a test, put this thing on Amazon and see what happens. It was a silly zombie movie, but to our benefit, it gained somewhat of a cult following. And so we made a sale, and we were like, oh my gosh, we just made a sale. And then another sale, and another sale, and another sale. And it totally changed my paradigm, the way I think about distribution. And that was a huge, that was a turning point for me. So now when I go out on these speaking gigs, I'm always talking about, like, hey, cut out the middleman. You don't need the middleman. Just go straight to the market, which works for, it may not work for everybody, but it works for a heck of a lot of ambitious filmmakers out there. It gives us some freedom. So,
Wow.
That's interesting. Do you think a lot of people, though, are as business-minded as you are? You seem like you have sort of both equations in your brain. I think a lot of people sway more toward the creative, though. Do you think?
I think the creative's fun because you get all sorts of bells and whistles, and I know a lot of filmmakers will go out and they'll buy the latest, greatest camera and audio equipment, and they'll put it in their closet just so they can look at it. And I know that very well because I used to be that guy, and I'm like, oh, look, I'm a filmmaker. Look at that stuff in my closet. But it does no good. And so you need the business stuff to actually get your work out there into the world. So I kind of had to learn it. And maybe I talk about it way too much. It's a little nerdy, but I try to make it fun.
Well, there's nothing nerdy about making money, and I'm wondering, do you have that sort of background from college, or were you more of an artistic major? What was your college background?
Yeah, in college I was a theater arts major. It was the closest I could get to filmmaking. But it wasn't until I got to New York when I was working with that producer that I heard the word business plan for the first time. And I was like, business plan? I did grow up, my dad had a small business growing up, so I did learn a little bit about, if you have a product or service, you have to sell that and you have to get it out in the world. And then I sold spas when I was in college, and I have a lot of sales background, so maybe it's kind of integrated it, into my life. But the whole reason I got a sales job selling spas in college was so that I could make enough money to make my first short film. So it all kind of worked together.
Oh, nice.
And so sort of update us on your journey, Jason, in terms of where you find yourself now, sort of in the past year. Where has your focus been?
Well, yeah, I will say that after that zombie movie came out, I did have a job with an investment bank called Lehman Brothers, and that was one of the big banks that went under, and I'm sure you're laughing, so you've probably heard that name a few times since 2008.
Yeah.
Well, and that admittedly helped me because I knew some folks with some money and stuff, so that helped us make that zombie movie, having that position and knowing some of those people. But the whole thing on the distribution and getting it out into Amazon when I found myself without that great source of income, I was like, what do I do next? And I would get these emails from filmmakers that had heard about the Amazon thing, and they were like, hey, how'd you do that? And that was the impetus to starting filmmaking stuff. So I just started writing these articles late night, which grew into a whole website, and we bring it up to date now, and it has some popularity. But one of the things that came up in that sort of in that journey was, hey, I want to get my movie out on iTunes. How do I do that? And it was somewhere around a year, about 3 years ago, I reached out to Adam Chapnick over at Distributor, and I was like, hey, you guys have a pretty neat service here. I want to promote that to my folks. I think you guys could help a lot of my people. And that created the relationship between Adam and I. And what happened now is that evolved, and I'm now the director of operations over at Distributor. So for the past 6 months, I've actually been helping a lot of the filmmakers that I formerly brought in through filmmaking stuff. So it's a small world.
Oh, very cool.
Wow, that's just really neat.
That's really neat.
And we've been huge sort of advocates of Distributor, and it's really great to hear your path to Distributor and what you're doing now. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to get into any of that kind of stuff. And for those of us watching, this is an unscripted interview, so I want to make sure that we cover some of the things that you guys want to cover. Word out on the street is you have a movie right now, speaking of distribution, that you guys are looking to distribute. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, what we're doing is, the same kind of thing you're talking about in terms of just having a product, wanting to get it to people without the middleman, and looking at film festivals, looking at traditional distribution and all this sort of thing, and just seeing that nothing there is necessarily promised. We have a really small film. We don't pretend to be that this is some massive film. We have a really small film that we made that we didn't have a production budget when we started. We crowdfunded about $16,000, of which we ended up with about $14,900 that we used for post-production to help pay with those costs. And so we spent a long time making the film. We didn't want to sort of slow down momentum on our release going any other way. We wanted to try to figure out a way to use the existing tools and without having to put in even more money, because the thing is with filmmaking, it's like one way or another you just end up putting more and more money in, and we just you know what, is there any way where we can just get the film to people so people can access it all over the world? There's no more money out of our pockets, and we're able to start generating some momentum. So there's a lot of reasons. You will answer anything you have for us in terms of why Indiegogo or whatever. But we started looking at the excitement happening on crowdfunding platforms. It's gotten to the point now where funding before you have your product is more exciting than the actual distribution. Like when you actually have the product, the film's made, you're excited. You're like, yes, I can't wait to share this. People see my work, and yet it's kind of like a dud. It's kind of like a thud. It's just like, where's the excitement? That social component, the engagement, all the kind of stuff that we saw, happening with crowdfunding is not happening with distribution yet. And so, we started getting this idea in our head, like, what if we... And
I just want to take a step back here, because I'm going to share this over on filmmaking stuff, and a lot of those folks this might be their first introduction to you guys at Film Courage.
Sure.
Let me know what Film Courage is, firstly, and then secondly, take a step back, and you'd mentioned a couple crowdfunding campaigns. So why don't you tell us about the movie, your first crowdfunding campaign, and then let us know why you chose to do a second crowdfunding campaign for your distribution as a major component of your distribution strategy.
Sure. Well, thank you, Jason. Well, Film Courage is a radio show that was on LATalkRadio.com, and we began it in April of 2009 as a way to just talk about some of our projects, and then it sort of took on a life of its own. And then we started a website on 10/10/10. It was October 10th of 2010. And again, articles came in, and we just got excited about hearing other people's stories, doing radio shows about other people's journeys. And we really thrived off of sort of this up and down ride that a lot of these individuals took in terms of, sort of instant sort of fame or just a hit, and then the rug was pulled out and they had to kind of rebuild. And so we enjoyed hearing stories of people getting back on the horse, so to speak, and thriving once again. And
can I add to that?
Yeah.
Because really sort of the impetus of Film Courage was, being filmmakers ourselves, having a film, this, Goodbye Promise, the film that we're distributing on Indiegogo, this is our second feature. Our first feature, Night Before the Wedding, we were trying to promote, we were trying to get the word out about it, and really there was limited options, in terms of this kind of shows or websites that we wanted to be featured on, in terms of just an independent film sort of landscape. So we kind of began Film Courage with that in mind, like as a place where, we could share the work of other filmmakers like us. So that was kind of like how it was born.
Yeah, so it took on a life of its own, and then at the same time, we began filming Goodbye Promise, which is a story of an actor who comes here from Virginia, and he gives himself 7 years to, quote, make it or cut his losses and go home or go on to something else. So the movie begins, a week before that 7-day deadline, or 7-year deadline, I'm sorry, and he's not where he wants to be in his career. Yeah. And so he has to kind of look at some of his life choices and the people around him who dearly love him and consider, is this worth fighting for? So, I mean, the film is a lot like our own lives and many people around us. So a lot of it was life imitating art and art imitating life. It was a big mixture of stuff, and it took 3 years to complete. We launched our crowdfunding campaign, was it April 2010, I believe? I think
it was March.
Or March, okay, sorry. And, crowdfunding was relatively new. Some people knew about, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. So, we always joke about it now. Had we launched the campaign today, we're not sure if we would have had the same success, even though we have a small following. But it's just gotten that much tougher to compete for people's attention on the internet and for $10 here, $5 there. So, in terms of doing
a lot of competition in the crowdfunding space right now, is that what you're seeing out there?
Absolutely, and there's beautiful projects. I mean, what was the one you were telling me about last night in Australia?
I think it's called Second Coming. I gotta get the title. I gotta track this movie down.
Yeah.
There's this filmmakers from Wish You Were Here, Australian filmmakers. It's a Sundance film. It's done really well in the past year, and now the producers of that film are teaming up. There's this Australian collaborative. I think it's called Second Coming movie. But the campaign video for that is phenomenal. You see such tremendous work out there. But to answer your question, Jason, about why Indiegogo, like why crowdfund again for the release of the film?
Yeah. So just to be clear, you guys made this film. You finished it. Did you do a festival run with this as well, or is this?
No. We had a 1-week screening in LA at the Downtown Independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had a 1-week theatrical run in Los Angeles, and we decided to bypass film festivals. We decided to bypass going after traditional distribution. We decided that we're going to put the power in our own hands, and we're gonna we've made the film available for $1. People can access the film online through Indiegogo, through YouTube. It's using Indiegogo as the storefront, and then using YouTube on the back end where people can stream it instantly. So this gives us distribution to the entire world. And we've had people in 17 different countries so far access the film, which has been really exciting for us. And in terms of a numbers point of view, what's really fascinating is we're offering the film for $1, and yet now we have over 300 people who have supported the film and supported the campaign. And the average contribution is $8.40, which kind of like blows us away. We never anticipated that sort of ratio. We were hoping to get a lot more people, but we weren't thinking that sort of average in terms of 8 times the dollar amount, which is just insane to us.
That's insane to any marketer. Speaking from a marketing standpoint, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Can I just ask though, why did you decide to bypass some of the traditional stuff and just say, you know what? Forget the festivals, forget trying to go after a traditional deal. Let's just really try to figure out a way to get it out there to the masses, without anybody else.
Yeah, I think what it is I think festivals are a blessing and a curse. I think as filmmakers we get caught up with the accolades, with the official selections, with being accepted, and we feel like, wow, my career is being formed. And there's a lot of, and not to say that there's not a lot of great stuff that comes from being in film festivals and attending and meeting people and everything. But each time, number one, to sum it up quickly, the main thing is just the time it takes from the beginning of the film festivals all the way through the end of your run. And it's like, where are you really going to end up at the end of the day? That's what I'm really concerned about, is where are you going to be with your film if those, you said yourself, you had a lot of offers that came in, you didn't get the deals you were looking for, So now, we wanted to capitalize on as much momentum from the start of our release as we could, because your film is only white hot once, and our film is really small. We don't have the money, the resources for a long 1-year rollout, hoping to build momentum and then stop and then start and then stop and then start. We had to try to just hit the internet all at once because the internet is viral. It's like we'd rather put our energy into the internet where people can access it all over the world and have that be our film festival, rather than trying to promote the Kansas City Film Festival or the Tampa Bay Film Festival. Then only a small amount of people can access our film. We just consider the internet one big film festival. We'd like to reach as many people as we possibly can. So that's the distinction there.
Yeah, and we thought this was a great way to do it with really no upfront cost for us. We'd already spent money on the film to finish it, to shoot it, everything. Why not just try this? No aggregator cost, nothing. So it was sort of an experiment and a way to sort of test our audience, and we feel very happy with it. I mean, the amount that we've raised so far is not substantial, but what we are happy with is the reach and the amount of people that have tweeted it, and to us, I think that means more.
What are you doing on your side? I often say in my talks that whenever you're doing the things that you're doing, which I think there's a helicopter after me or something.
Oh, okay, all right.
Hopefully it's not blasting me out here. Fun of Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I always think, you've sourced an audience, you've gotten your name out there pretty significantly in this project. Are you doing anything on your end to build those relationships for not just this title, but your next titles?
That's a great point.
Yeah, do you want to start on that one?
Well, the thing is, with every contributor, pretty much, I think we get an email address. There might be an exception of just a few, but Indiegogo gives us those email addresses. So there we have a way to market to them a month from now, whenever, if we have maybe the DVD come out, whatever it is. And we try to get back to as many people as we can. I'm sure there's been people that have slipped through the cracks, and we feel badly about that. We try to reply to people, and I find that that's a pretty good method, is trying to, even if it's a quick email that just says, great, thanks. And I know people hate 1 or 2 word emails, but sometimes if that's all you can do, at least you acknowledge that I've heard you, and I got it, and thank you so much. And so we just try to keep in contact like that. And
yeah, I mean, it's been pretty massive. I mean, it's wild because, like I said, we only have 300 actual contributors, which, I guess on many fronts it seems like such a small number. But when you're literally engaging with that many people, when people are commenting on the film and the feedback that's pouring in from like different parts of the world, there's just a lot of engagement. So there's been a lot of tweeting back and forth on Twitter. There's been a lot of commenting and sharing on Facebook. So we're directly interacting with people, and we're starting from the ground up. Even though we have the Film Courage platform that we've spent several years building, this release is something brand new. This is something people haven't seen. So it's just like, we're like the frontline soldiers that are just like, okay, let's go. We're going to try to, dodge bullets and just try to create as much mayhem or whatever. Not create mayhem, but avoid mayhem and
yeah.
We're disrupting the whole thing right now.
And there may have been someone resembling me walking around Hollywood and Glendale in different areas dropping off short films of David's that just happened to have the Indiegogo link, because these films were collecting dust, and it was one of David's first short films entitled Shootout. And so we thought, what a great way to get rid of them and just accidentally leave them at a Redbox or different things. So that was moi walking around, and people were definitely like, what is this woman doing? They thought it was probably, some type of church literature or whatever. They didn't want to be bothered, but I would just leave them places, and then I would come back and they'd be gone. So I don't know if that really works in terms of getting people to donate $1. I think most of the people have been through the Film Courage circle, but we have heard from people, like some guy tweeted us to say that he heard people talking about it at Starbucks in Hollywood, this online release. He heard another guy today emailed us and said, oh, a waitress at a coffee shop that he goes to heard about the film through the LA Times. So we're just trying to build buzz, and I think for us right now that means more than the money.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of the money, we are getting down to the wire with your crowdfunding campaign, and you guys are doing something interesting here in the sense you're not raising money to actually create the film. You're raising money to get it out into the marketplace and help promote the film. Why do you think the response has been less significant on this side of the crowdfunding versus the one you did initially to raise the money?
Well, the thing is, I don't know if it is less significant. The thing is, we're not asking. We don't have the $50 perks. We don't have the $75 perks. So, for a lot of crowdfunding campaigns, for every contributor, they'll average somewhere between $25 and $75 a contribution. So our average is $8. But once again, our only perk is the film itself for $1. So we're not asking for a lot. And there's a lot of ways to sort of measure what we're doing so far. One way to look at it is, let's say this was our festival premiere, because our campaign, it says 30 days, but I think in actuality, I think it's maybe 32 days.
Sure.
So if you're getting ready for your festival premiere, and if you're promoting, like, hey guys, you know what, we're going to be at the Seattle True Independent Film Festival, and you're promoting that for 30 days, when you actually screen at that festival, how many people are actually going to pay and buy tickets and show up for that festival, during that first promotional run? Are you going to get 300 people to show up for your screening? I don't know. So it all depends how you want to, what you want to gauge as the thing, and as Karen mentioned, we're building a small email list to start that we can come back and maybe offer the DVD to at a later point. So there's a lot of different ways in terms of what you want to look at the number. If you don't want to just only focus on the $2,000 or $2,600 or whatever it is right now, that's one way to look at it. But the engagement, the awareness, reaching people all over the world, believe there's a lot of ways to sort of measure the early success. And I think the reason why it maybe hasn't fully caught on yet is people haven't seen this yet before, and also we're not done yet. We still have till Wednesday. So, if you know crowdfunding as well as we do, there's always a surge at the end. So we have the actually, I don't know if you were going to go there, but we're going to see what the surge is at the end, and then also we set our campaign goal too high. So we admit it. Is that what you're going to talk about?
No, but I agree with that as well. And but one quick thing is, for me, distribution isn't a sexy thing. I think making the film and raising the money for it, it's like when an IPO comes out, everybody wants to see it, and they're at the NASDAQ, and they're ringing the bell, and everything's so exciting, and they're watching the price go up, and then great. And then quarterly earnings come out, and it's boring, unless you own that. But, you know what I'm saying? It's not as sexy a thing to distribute.
Karen, I think I know what you're saying so well. Since getting heavily involved in distribution, I'm so excited about it, and the top question people ask me is, Jason, when are you going to make your next movie? And I'm like, wait, I really like distribution.
Do you? Well, good. I'm glad you.
I'm actually on the opposite side of literally and figuratively, of what you guys are saying here.
Okay.
Distribution, we got to make it sexy.
Yes, we do.
I think it is.
Okay, well, good. Well, and I think it's a matter of choice and what people are best suited for. And I know for me, it's probably not one of my strong suits, but I think that may be one reason. I'm sure another filmmaker, another artist could probably do this way better and have tremendous success because they have more of an audience. So hopefully we can kind of dip our toe in the water with this, and then somebody like an Amanda Palmer or someone else could come along, Louis C.K., and release it in a much more explosive.
I think you're doing a good, you're doing a good incremental stepping, in terms of your projects. This wasn't, Batman. This was a small film, and you guys have scaled accordingly.
Yeah. Here's one more thought, Jason.
Sure.
Because we did go with Indiegogo, and we love Indiegogo. With this opportunity to do what we're doing wouldn't exist without Indiegogo. And also Indiegogo gives us the component of reaching people all over the world, but there's a part of it where the Indiegogo platform is not as polished as the Kickstarter platform, so there's maybe some advantages and some things and some momentum that we'd be able to gain on, because from our experience from dealing with Kickstarter, there's more of a community there. There's a greater sense, I think, of discovery there. There's just more things that we can take advantage of there. That we're bringing a lot. We're bringing not a lot, but we're bringing some people to the Indiegogo platform that are literally signing on just so they can contribute to our film. So there's a little bit there, and then we set this astronomical goal of 1 million sort of views is what we're going after, 1 million contributors, mainly because it ties into the theme of our film of going after the impossible dream, and because we believe the day is coming very soon when artists like us who have this small work, this passion project, they're going to put it on a platform the way we are right now, and you're going to see it just skyrocket. Right. So we kind of wanted to stake claim to that and just use that as a way to maybe inspire the artists out there that this is possible. So we think with a lower threshold, people would see that the goal is more tangible, and maybe there would have been more of a flurry. So so
you would say that was one thing you'd do differently next time, especially for a distribution campaign, you'd set it a little bit lower.
Yeah. That's the definite one lesson we definitely learned, because I think it intimidated a lot of people. They thought, oh, there's no way they'll ever make 1 million, and I think we fully were aware of that as well. Yeah. But I think that could hurt someone from pulling out their credit card and doing $1, because they're not even close to it. Whereas if you're almost there, oh, let's be part of the process. Let's get them to that goal.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be making my donation a little bit later after this interview, so at least you're going to get another one from me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah. But I know our time's limited today, but just a couple more questions about maybe if you guys can speak a little bit more, because you are kind of the pioneers of using this distribution strategy. What would you have done differently aside from not raising such a lofty goal, but what else would you have done differently? How could you have done it better?
That we're still racking our brains on that one right there. I think it's going to take maybe a few days to once the dust settles a little bit.
Yep.
Maybe more pre-legwork. I think there probably can't be enough sort of before campaign planning that you could do. I mean, we definitely reached out to many outlets, acting outlets, things like that. But probably just even more of that.
Did you keep the filmmaking process transparent as you were going through it? I mean, were the initial funders from the crowdfunding campaign following you guys throughout?
Yeah, this whole, our situation is we were making our film literally at the same time that Film Courage was being born and sort of became its own entity. So
because you weren't busy enough with the movie, you had to create another outstanding website too.
So the whole thing, we thought, this is like a little improv film that had no money, that literally we're just trying to exercise, just keep those creative juices flowing. And so we thought, like, okay, let's just shoot this on the fly. We'll have this done within a year. We'll just kind of put this out there, and then we'll get ready for our next film. So here we are 3 years later, not anticipating that it would take this long. And so we've done our best to maintain those early supporters, and we've seen a lot of people from our Kickstarter campaign come over and support this one. So we've had people that have contributed in both instances, which is
okay. So your initial campaign was on Kickstarter, and then this one was Indiegogo.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, we had, I think, 227 backers.
Yeah, we've gone from 227 backers on our first one, and now we're over 300, and we're just now in that sort of beginning phase of our final flurry. We're down to like our last 60 hours. So this is our opportunity to really try to drive that number up and see how high we can push it. Our current goal is to see if we can get up to 1,000. We realize that the 1 million fan goal is not tangible. Like, people see that and they're just. And it may be, like Karen said, it might intimidate people. Yeah. So in these last couple hours, these last hours, we've made the concerted effort to say, we've alerted a lot of people with the engagement that, hey, we're going to just try to go after 1,000 because we believe that's possible. We do believe that's possible. And another thing with this campaign we didn't mention in this interview is we took 7 days off of our release to help another filmmaker on his Kickstarter campain. And so that campaign by Jack Marchetti is called Four of a Kind. We were so compelled by his story of a young man in his early 30s who's losing his sight every day of his life. He's been losing his vision, and he's a talented screenwriter, and he wants to make a film before he goes entirely blind.
Right.
So,
no, I think I've seen that one. That interesting.
Yeah. So we literally, we were on the front page of Indiegogo, featured and we stopped pushing our own campaign so that we could help him try to reach his goal. And
how did he do? Did he reach his goal?
it went from 20,000 all the way up to over like 64,000. It was a $100,000 goal, and we came up short. But it trended on Twitter. You know, it was
crazy. It was complete
crazy
madness on Twitter. So you know, again, I mean, we feel badly that we weren't able to fully, you know, get him there, but still, I mean, so many.
Maybe I'm asking the wrong questions. You know, the interesting part about Indiegogo, and you know, full disclosure, I do a lot of work with Distributor, which is owned by Indiegogo. So everything I ask sounds so biased. I like Indiegogo, and I do a lot. But with that said, you know, one of the benefits is it's not an all or nothing deal. So thankfully, the gentleman you helped out got to keep his 64,000, and you know,
his was on Kickstarter.
His was on Kickstarter. Yeah. So he was able to raise like 28,000, I think, in the last day, but it still wasn't enough. So he has no money right now, and we're hoping that he's going to figure out a time to get back out there, try this again, and we're gonna do our best to try to see it through, and whatever his goal is, we're gonna try to get behind him once again and help him make his film.
In that response, my heart just broke. And so I guess that's another conversation, but keep me in the loop for that when you guys go out and do another campaign for him.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's all his sort of...
He had his own team. Lucas Vignelli from A Year Without Rent was also helping him. He was the main person.
Yeah, so we'll keep posted on that. But that's another reason why we went with Indiegogo, is because we didn't want to set this sort of $1 million goal and then put in all this work, and then at the end of the day not hit this outrageous goal and then not be able to keep any of the money, you know. So so that's another reason why we went with Indiegogo.
What are you guys going to do next in wrapping this up here? And I'd also like to get some advice that you could impart to some of the filmmaking stuff viewers that may be interested in getting to know you guys. So what are your next steps, and then what's your advice?
We're still not sure what we're going to do after this. I mean, we have filmcourage.com, and then we have a video component now. We don't do the radio show any longer, but we do a video podcast and also video interviews. So we'll continue with filmcourage.com. I mean, it's a pretty much full-time job, and we also work on top of it, so our hands are full with that.
And in terms of Goodbye Promise, really we have to sort of we have to finish this stretch. You know, we're hoping at, you know, I mean, what we're hoping going in is we're literally hoping that we could have create enough momentum and create enough revenue so that we could take a portion of this and go through a service like Distributor. So we're really looking at Distributor, and I know we haven't totally highlighted Distributor in this conversation in terms of what they are, but they're an aggregator that can help filmmakers get their work onto possibly iTunes and Hulu. You know, they have relationships with Netflix and Amazon, all that sort of thing. And so you pay a flat fee, and then from there you keep all the percentages that come in. The additional, you know, the distributor takes their cut, and then from there you hold on to all the revenue from all the platforms that your film ends up on. So we would love to sort of transition to that point where we can then extend our reach and our film is more widely available to a larger audience. But we have to kind of see what we do here in these final hours, but that's something we hope to do at some point in time, in addition to doing a limited release DVD and getting those out to the people that want to own it on DVD as well.
And Jason, in terms of advice, in what area were you thinking, in terms of crowdfunding or?
Well, you guys have done a whole lot. I mean, you've gone through the gamut from the crowdfunding, the whole way to production, the whole way to coming up with these ideas for distribution. So I guess, it's sort of a broad question, but I'd like a lot of the readers on filmmaking stuff, there's two different types. The folks that are just making their first feature, and then there's the seasoned filmmaker that's been doing this for a while, that's been through the rigmarole like we all have, and has encountered some of those old distribution deals that no longer work. How would you, or how do you suggest that these filmmakers approach the landscape?
I'm
the king of loaded questions.
No, I just wanted to get clear. No. In terms of a beginner filmmaker, I mean, we consider ourselves beginner filmmaker. You know, our film is really small. what we're trying to showcase is we're trying to showcase that you can have an idea, you can have the passion, you can have the heart, you can go out, you can make your film without any sort of traditional means, and now we're trying to showcase that you can go direct to your audience and have that this is viable, that you can succeed at this sort of thing. So that's kind of where we are. It's hard for us to give advice to filmmakers who have more experience than we do.
Right, probably have made more money, things like that. One last thing too, if you are going to build an audience, sometimes I think it helps to write or tweet about stories that are similar to the group that you're in, and not just have it all be your own sort of video blog about, okay, well, this is what I'm doing today and this and that, and build people along with you around other people's stories. And I think that's how Film Courage was born. We were so fascinated by some of these other people's journeys that we got swept up in it, and then just started tweeting and posting articles and all that, and built an audience that way.
Yeah, and we have the luxury of we don't have a ton of expenses. We're in the red, but it's not like a massive amount of money, so we have a little bit more freedom to be adventurous in our distribution path here so far. Whereas a lot of people, they have films that have cost a lot more money, and they're not in a position to take this route. So we realize what we're doing is not for everybody, but what we're trying to do here is we're trying to show for that indie artist that was conservative with how much money they put into their film and didn't burn a lot of money, and they have something, and if the system is turning them down, and if they can't get their film out to the people in the way that they want to get it out, I think we're showing that if you sort of roll up your sleeves and put in some work, that there's a new way where you can just start getting your film seen that doesn't cost you any money out of pocket. We haven't spent any money on deliverables, we haven't spent any money on marketing. So when you're looking at once again, you're looking at where our numbers are, just know that this is no money that we've put into this release.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think at this point I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm Jason from Filmmaking Stuff, and maybe you guys could go ahead, if it's the Filmmaking Stuff folks watching this, tell them how they can find you and also find your campaign.
Oh, okay. Well, you can find our site at filmcourage.com. We're also on YouTube /filmcourage. And then the site is indiegogo.com. Is it /goodbye promise? Okay.
Yeah, or just goodbyepromise.com. And Jason, thank you. We appreciate you taking time to chat with us.
Cool.
We understand this was under the gun and impromptu, and
Spontaneous.
You made yourself available.
Yeah,
we really appreciate it. Thanks to all your peeps at filmmakerstuff.com.
And just to be clear, it's filmmakingstuff.com. I don't know who the other guys are.
Oh, Filmmaking Stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sorry if I got that wrong. Jeez.
No, it's. I'm just gonna bail out now, and I gotta go buy another domain real quick. So
yeah, call up GoDaddy right now before they take it and charge you $50 for it. Okay.
Jason, my bad. We appreciate you.
Sorry about that. Okay.
No, it's fun. Good to meet you guys. You take care.
Nice talking.